Hello. In this video, we're going to be going over some review if you are struggling with marking meter. So I have, I'll put a poem up on the screen here, and I'm going to read it in an exaggerated way, just like I will for the test. And so what I'd like you to do as you review, or in order to review, I'd like you to mark what you would, how you would label this. So like with the U's and the slash marks. So you can jot this down on a piece of scratch paper, or you can type it or something, whatever works for you. Remember, you're gonna want to have either a slash mark or U underneath each one of the, or sorry, above each one of the syllables. One of those two for each syllable. So if you count the total syllables in the line, that'll tell you how many total marks you're gonna need. So anyway, we're starting with a couple nursery rhymes because those already have a pretty exaggerated rhythm to them. For the test, I will read through it 3 times, and that will be it. So I'll read through it 3 times, and you can mark it. And then after you've gone through and marked it, then after that you'll have a chance to identify the meter. So let's go ahead and practice on this one. Again, try to write it down as we go. Hickory dickory dock. The mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1. The mouse ran down. Hickory dickory dock. Okay, so I'll read through that one more time. If you've written it down, use what you've written in your notes to kind of check with the way that I'm pronouncing it and see if what you have matches with the way that I'm pronouncing it. Hickory dickory dock. The mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1. The mouse ran down. Hickory dickory dock. Okay, for the test, I'll be reading it 3 times, but for us right now, I'm just going to do it twice. Here is what it should look like. Hickory dickory dock. The mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1. The mouse ran down. Hickory dickory dock. Most poems, not all poems, but most poems keep the same rhythm. Like they tend to all have, if one line's iambic, they're all iambic. That's not always the case. And in this one, that refrain of hickory dickory dock definitely has a different rhythm than the other ones in the middle. So this one has a couple of different meters. These two right here, we have iambic, that's what the unstressed stress is. And then there are 2 feet in each of those lines. So that would be iambic dimeter. Remember, we're counting feet and not syllables. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 syllables, but there's only 2 feet. This line is also iambic. But this line we have 3 feet. So that would be iambic trimeter. And then obviously the first line and the last line are the same. And there are actually 2 answers that I would accept for this, because in either case you have 1 extra syllable. Sometimes you'll have a line that does have an extra syllable that doesn't fit into the pattern. And so when you're labeling that, you just want to come up with a term that's going to account for as many syllables as possible, basically. So there's 2 ways of looking at this. You could say, well, look, we've got 1, 2 dactyls right there. So it would be dactylic dimeter. We would say dimeter and not trimeter because we don't have 3 full feet. We only have 2 full feet. Or, conversely, let me change colors here. You could look at it like this. So in one version, you're leaving out the last syllable. In the other version, you're leaving out the first syllable. If you do it the second way, the part that I have in blue, that would be showing anapestic Demeter. So I would accept either one of those as an answer for that line. Okay, let's try another nursery rhyme. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Okay, so that's what that one should look like. This one has a couple of irregular lines, and the ones that I'm going to ask you to identify on the test will not be irregular. I want to pick things that are more clearly identifiable. But if you were to happen to have something like the first or the second line, you can still give it a name. There are 2 of this foot, and there's 1 of this foot. So that would give us trochaic, Demeter, and we could say, since we have that, and then there's also one more guy at the end, we could say plus an extra dactyl. I guess you could say dactylic monometer, because there's only one. Kind of like the last example that we had, it's possible to look at this line in another way. Because when we labeled it just now like that, there's still one syllable at the end that didn't get accounted for. So we could also look at this as, still on eraser, as 1, 2, so that would be iambic, Demeter, and now at the end we have anapestic manometer. Again, this is not generally the type of line that I'm going to have you label for the test, but if you mark something wrong and you end up with a line like that, if you can identify it accurately like I just did there, then you'll get credit for that. Okay, last 2 lines are the same as one another, and we have 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 feet. Each one of those is a dactyl. So dactylic trimeter. Notice that when we do that, there are 3 full feet. So we go to trimeter, there's an extra syllable there that doesn't count as its own foot. The other way we could properly identify this line is if instead of leaving the last syllable out, we leave the first syllable out, in which case we're looking at that as a foot, and that as a foot, and that as a foot, in which case we would have anapestic trimeter. And if you feel better about it saying like plus 1 extra syllable, if you feel better getting that specific, you certainly can. Wouldn't say that's necessary. Okay, now we're going to go to another poem that is not a nursery rhyme. This is Edgar Allan Poe from The Raven. And actually maybe I'll do this in a different structure so we can practice naming a different type of meter. Okay, so here we go on this one. Once upon a midnight midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this and nothing more." So this is kind of a long one, so I'm not going to read through it again. And there's one line in here where things get a little bit weird, but here's how we would mark this one. Put the marker on. Okay. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary. Okay, so let's stop right there. That's a lot of feet, but it's definitely trochaic feet. So we have one. Oops, I'm going to do that in another color so it's a little bit easier to see. We have 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that would be trochaic octameter. By the way, when you're marking this, you do not have to add these little label lines like I just added at the top there with the red. I'm just doing that to kind of help you identify where the feet are. So there's that line. The thing that gets a little bit weird here is in the second line, because I don't know if you remember this, but with Macbeth, there were some times when Macbeth would, or Shakespeare would shorten words by using an apostrophe, kind of like we have at the beginning of this line with "tis," which is short for "it is." And sometimes words there's an apostrophe used or something like that to shorten the number of syllables in order to make it fit a particular rhythm. And that's kind of what I did in this second line with the way that I pronounced it. There are syllables there that would not be labeled because they kind of get smushed together. I will not have any like this on the test, but in case you're curious, this one would be over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. So these I kind of smushed together, and the eus and curious I kind of smushed together. So that ends us up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That could be either trochaic heptameter or iambic heptameter. Either one of those would work. While I nodded nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So trochaic octameter. As of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. So this one, in this poem, it actually alternates the type of meter that's used. So you'll notice that the very first line and this line are both trochaic octameter, I believe. And then the other two lines, the second one and the fourth one, could be either iambic or trochaic, and they are, I already forgot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Both of those are either trochaic heptameter or iambic heptameter. And then carrying on to our last line. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's going to be, we're, instead of alternating back to the one from the first and the third line. Oops, sorry, wrong color. We are going to include the same as the previous one. And then our last line is only this and nothing more. And that one could either be iambic trimeter or trochaic trimeter. All right, that one got kind of complicated so that we could look at examples of different things. We will look at one more example here. And again, listen to the way that it's pronounced and do your markings that way. Half a league, half a league, half a league onward. That one should be half a league, half a league, half a league onward. So the thing that you name that one be 3 dactyls and 1 trochee. So you could say dactylic trimeter with 1 trochaic manometer. So that's just one line of that poem. I'm just trying to come up with different examples of different types of rhythm. Okay, here's this next one. Like the leaves of the forest when summer is green, that host with their banners at sunset were seen. Like the leaves of the forest when autumn hath blown, that host on the morrow lay withered and strown. Like the leaves of the forest when summer is green, that host with their banners at sunset were seen. Like the leaves of the forest when autumn hath blown, that host on the morrow lay withered and strown. So that one is, again, we have an alternating pattern. The first line and the third line are anapestic tetrameter. And then the second line and the fourth line, these ones they are not consistent all the way through. So both of them start with an iambic manometer, and then they have 1, 2, 3 anapests. So you could call that iambic manometer and anapestic trimeter. Okay, that's the one we're going to go through as an example together. If you're still struggling and you want to go over more, please email me and let me know when you would like to meet during my office hours today, 1:30 to 3:30. And if that's not going to work, tell me another time when we might be able to chat. The test, again, is during your regular class time, and you are going to be on Zoom for it. So I think that's everything.